Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how I can create this simple, abstract, beautiful shader in Blender. So let's get started. First let's hit Shift A and add a plane. Now go to Shading, go to the Rendered view, and under Render Properties let's change this to Eevee and set the color management to Look, Very High Contrast. Also let's go to the World Properties, under Color, select Environment Texture and select the environment texture that you want to use. I'm going to put a link to the environment texture that I use in the description. Just click on Open Image and now we've got this. Now with the plane selected, let's click on New and make it metallic. Simply drag this all the way over here. Now hit Shift A and under Search add a brick texture. Put that here and connect the color to the color here and to the roughness. Now as you can see we have got this pattern here. Add a wave texture. Put it here and plug the color into the vector. Set the scale to 0.39 and let's set the distortion to 5.8. Now add a Voronoi texture. Set it to distance to edge here and plug the distance into the vector. By the way, if you want these previews here, you can find a link to the add-on in the description. Now make sure that you have the Node Wrangler add-on installed. It comes with Blender by default. Simply type in Node Wrangler add-on in here and enable it. With the Voronoi texture selected, press Ctrl T and now we have these two nodes. Instead of the generated, we are going to use the object coordinate. Now here select any color that you like. I'm going to go with a light orange here and a dark orange here. Like this. Press Shift A and add a Mix RGB. This is going to allow us to mix colors and textures, for example. Plug that into the mortar and make color 1 black. Now for color 2 I'm going to use a yellow color, for example this one. And now if we plug a texture into the vector, for example, it's going to allow us to mix these two colors. So to mix the color, let's add a noise texture. Plug the color into the vector and set the scale to 25. And as you can see now we have this effect here, because the colors are being mixed based on this pattern here. Set the detail to 15 and the roughness to 1. To make this even more realistic, let's add a bump node. You can also just drag the color to the normal here and then add the bump node. So hit Shift A and bump and simply drag and drop it and plug it into the height. Now you can control the strength of it. I think I'm going to leave it somewhere around here. To make the scene look a little more interesting, I'm going to add 2 more objects. First I'm going to add Suzanne. Ctrl 3 to subdivide it. Press GZ to move it on the Z-axis. And numpad 1 to go into front view, or I think we're going to Z view here. Rotate it and move it so that it aligns with this cursor here, like this. Now let's scale it down by pressing S, and we need to align it again. And as you can see, we've got these faces here. Simply right click and shade smooth. Also let's go here to the modifier properties and set the render to 3 as well. Otherwise it's going to look like this in the render with these edges here, and I don't want that. Now let's hit Shift A and add an icosphere. Go to Add Icosphere and set the subdivisions to 5. You can of course also set them lower. I don't recommend that you go higher because it's going to be very heavy on your PC. Now scale it down again, like this. Go into side view and move it up again. If you press Ctrl, it will snap to the increments here. The increments are these boxes. Sorry. Now let's go into top view and put it next to Suzanne. Also shades move again. Now if we go into rendered view, as you can see the material isn't applied yet. So select the icosphere and Suzanne and at last the plane and press Ctrl L, link materials. This will apply the materials. So now let's set up the camera. I'm going to position my view around here. Shift A and add a camera. Ctrl Alt 0 to go into camera view and G Z to move it on the local Z axis. If you only press GZ, it's going to move on the global Z axis. Now select the plane again and scale it up so that it is outside of the view of the camera. With the camera selected, you can also go to the object data properties and the viewport display and set the pulse per 2 higher so that we only see what the camera sees. Now let's hit Shift A and add an empty plane axis, and here go to snapping and set it to face. I recommend that you, as soon as you don't need it anymore, that you set it back to increment. Now press G and Ctrl, and as you can see the empty will snap to the faces. So I'm going to put it here, turn it off again, and if we go to the viewport shading, as you can see it's right on top of the Suzanne. One more thing that I'm going to do before rendering is to add a few lights. So go to light and area and move it up. Go into top view and press G to move it like this, and press R and rotate it like this. By the way, because of the names it's pretty obvious which object is what, but I'm going to name the empty camera focus. It is a good practice to name your objects so you can keep an overview of them. Now let's go into top view and duplicate the light, rotate it like this. Go into rendered view and now let's go here and I'm going to make this one blue, for example. Set the power to 100 and this one I'm going to make red. Again set it to 100. Now go back into top view and select both of the lights, Shift D, and set this to 3D cursor. Make sure to set it back to medium point after that. And now rotate it like this and position it. And let's set it back. Now let's save our scene. I'm going to call it tutorial. And now if we go into camera view, we have a preview of what it's going to look like. So I set the power for all of the lights to 25 because I think 50 was a little too strong. Now under the output properties, here you can select your file format. I'm going to set it to JPEG and set the quality to 100%. Let's press Ctrl S to save again and F12 to render the image. Depending on your system, this might take a few seconds, and once it's done rendering you can go to Image, Save As, and name your image. You can of course also just leave it untitled, but I would not recommend that. Now all that's left to do is to press Save As Image. So that's it with the tutorial. I hope you liked it. Please let me know what I should do next, and I'll see you next time.